If you remember, didn't Unicron mention something about our dilemma?
As long as hatred exists, I shall remain impervious to attack.
So if that's the case, are you telling me that you are merely suppressing your hatred of me, or do you actually like me?
Don't deny the inevitable, Prime. You have no other choice.
Admit it, Prime! I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots!
I think one of the many things that is overlooked when it comes to Transformers Armada is the deep psychology that was explored when it comes to Optimus Prime and Megatron. Instead of it being right on the nose on who's good and evil, we now have Optimus Prime as a commander and Megatron as a general, both looking at their teammates as soldiers. While Optimus Prime is much warmer in that area, Megatron not so much as a ruthless ruler, but a disciplinarian, both noticing and in some ways respecting one another, as one soldier to the other. Now this video isn't about which Prime and Megatron are better, this video is just about noticing a different layer and complexity to the Optimus Prime and Megatron chemistry that is oftentimes overlooked and never kind of revisited. In most Transformers media, it's more pandered with the brotherly-like relationship. Every battle that was fought in Transformers Armada had a strategic element to it, there was a sort of strategy on both parties. So instead of just like reckless fighting, hoping to kill one another, it would always be more about which battle would be won today, and then planning on the next strategy for the next fight, going on and on like there was no end in sight, and this was demonstrated wonderfully in the final episode of Armada, Mortal Kombat. Just for the sake of consistency, I know Megatron was redubbed as Galvatron at the end of the Armada series, but really there was no difference other than a paint job, so I'm just going to continuously call him Megatron just for the sake of it. Not only is it the strongest episode in the series, but it raises a lot of questions and purpose of their relationship. Megatron consistently provoking Optimus Prime to have a discussion with him about their dilemma, while Optimus Prime wants to ignore the conversation and maintain their treaty together. Just for a recap for anyone who hasn't watched the Armada series, midway through the show Unicron emerged. Both Autobots and Decepticons joined forces to fight against their common foe, but this was helped with Starscream's death convincing Megatron that there are bigger things to deal with than another battle. And this is the point where Armada got more interesting because it showed Optimus Prime and Megatron in a different light. We already got a tease of this though when Optimus Prime sacrificed himself to stop Megatron's blast from destroying Earth when Optimus Prime was vaporized. For a few episodes we saw Megatron actually dealing with the loss of Optimus Prime and kind of lost his kind of excitement for the fight now because there wasn't anyone to oppose him that was on the same level as him. Like, I'll never forget the moment when as a kid, I thought it was really strange of Megatron yelling out Prime's name.
He's completely disintegrated into space dust. Optimus!
Because you would have expected him to laugh or gloat about it, but rather he was shocked, because you could see how much respect he had for him as an adversary. Megatron was just like, well, war isn't fun anymore. So much so he retreated after that. Megatron could have just blasted Earth once again, but instead decided to retreat because he had to kind of deal with the fact that a guy who has been fighting for millennia has just died in front of his eyes. At any chance Megatron has, he always likes to rub into the face to Optimus Prime that he is superior to him, and when he no longer has someone that he can do that to, he feels lost. And when Optimus Prime was brought back to life a few episodes later, Megatron was glad to see him again.
I never thought I'd say this, but it's good to have you back, Prime.
It's just the stereotypical comparison of Batman and Joker, his yin to his yang. They are both fueled for their respect and hatred of each other. Megatron never expected to actually end up killing Prime, he just thought they were going to go on forever because, well, he's fueled by battle, he loves it. While Optimus Prime could never admit to enjoying the battle, he thought it was a necessary evil to maintain peace. Megatron was as shocked as Optimus Prime's sacrifice as much as he was as well for Starscream's sacrifice. Both had an impact on him that kind of changed how he behaved throughout the course of the series. Almost as though they would go as far as he would when it comes to a fight. Which makes him begin to question what this is all for. What is something Megatron could do that would be better than Optimus Prime or Starscream? Because whoever Megatron is fighting, most particularly Starscream or Optimus Prime, he always wants to prove that he is superior to them. And what does Megatron do at the end of the series? He sacrifices himself to stop Unicron. He finally does something that Starscream and Optimus Prime did, which in some ways would prove that he is willing to go all out in a fight as well, like they did, sort of understanding the meaning behind their sacrifice. I wouldn't say he really did it for the greater good, he just doesn't want to feel any lesser compared to them. Especially Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime had the same shock on his face when he saw Megatron sacrifice himself, much like how Megatron had the same look when Prime sacrificed himself, showing how they are two sides of the same coin. While Optimus Prime would have loved to have maintained a friendship with Megatron, he couldn't do that because of the eons they battled. To him, it would have been anticlimactic. With every fight he has with Prime, he always wants to feel satisfied, like it was meant for something, as Megatron explains in the brilliant dialogue delivered.
If we don't continue our battle, then everything we've done in the past has been pointless. There can only be one ruler in the universe. Understand? And now the Unicron is out of the way, that leaves only you and me. Optimus! You know very well we could never reign as one. Our fight shall continue until either of us falls. And I shall be the last one standing after I crush you, Prime. Just like this.
You just might be right, Galvatron.
I would say Optimus Prime is actually a bit darker than Megatron himself, because Optimus Prime is merely hiding his hatred for Megatron. As Unicron describes that their hatred for each other is the very thing he feeds off that makes him more powerful, as he doesn't see Autobots or Decepticons any different from each other. While I do believe Optimus Prime does fight for peace, there is another dark aspect of this. As Unicron says, how does war translate into peace? Well, unfortunately for Optimus Prime, war is the only way to stop Megatron's tyranny because he won't be met with any dialogue or discussion. Optimus Prime's hatred for Megatron has built up over the years due to the fact Megatron's reluctant to change. That's why Optimus Prime has so much hatred for him. And this is why I think the Transformers is a great allegory for war in the human world, because obviously this is the very same thing we have to deal with when wars are fought on the planet. We can protest all we want that we don't want war, but unfortunately the only way we can deal with the evils of the world is to take action into our own hands to try and maintain peace. Because of how different humans are from each other, there will always be something to stand in the way of peace. There will be rulers and dictators of a world that won't stand to reason, and will only fight for something that they believe is just. Some people just want to watch the world burn, or to have it under their control, which makes the Transformers not so different from us in terms of how they behave. We've got militaries and generals just like the Transformers do. And when Megatron joins forces halfway through the series, Optimus Prime feels a sense of relief that there could be possible dialogue between the pair. Much like how some world leaders can come together, but then after a few years of differences will go back to their roots of fighting each other. But in Megatron's case, not so much as he wants to see the world burn, he just wants to carry on the fight with Optimus Prime in the final episode because he doesn't want it to be a waste, because all his life he has just been fighting for the last person standing. But because the loop of the battles would be constant, he can no longer see an end in sight. So he wants to continue the same pattern because it's the one thing that fuels him. I genuinely believe at some point Megatron did want to be the supreme ruler of the universe, but after a while got tired of that goal because he realised it wouldn't really give him satisfaction. I mean, he addresses this to Thrust himself.
You can't just leave me here, please! Thrust, if you dare to have dreams of power, you will be consumed by them.
Megatron sees his own reflection in Thrust, someone who is hungry for power, and the look of it makes Megatron kind of disgusted. I think with all the battles Megatron has experienced with Optimus Prime has come to an understanding that he is a superior leader and fighter. In the episode Mortal Kombat, we actually notice a lot that Optimus Prime is using his fists and integrity, while Megatron uses all of his weapons at his disposal, with Optimus Prime sometimes using Megatron's own weapons against him, proving how weak they are. But still, with the time they spent being allies with each other is the reason why Optimus Prime just can't watch him die at the end, because, well, despite him having a lot of hatred for him, did see that they could work together as a team. That, despite all else, is the one thing Optimus Prime wants. And in some ways I think Megatron would want as well, but because the eons they fought has just gone on for too long, he just can't see it being any different. Despite the respect they share for each other, the hatred is still strong. And Megatron's death is the only kind of closure Optimus Prime will ever get, because with Megatron dead, obviously the Autobots and Decepticons can focus on maintaining peace with each other. Gives Optimus Prime a sense of comfort that with Megatron sacrificing himself, that there was a part of Megatron that would have loved to have changed, even though it was something he could never bring himself to act upon. But honestly, seeing these two work together in the show was actually a great sight to see, especially for a kid, because it gave me hope that two people can come together and work side by side. I guess if there's a spark of hope out there, that people are able to change, even if they just give you a glimpse of it, then maybe it's not all for nothing. But how long that should be tolerated? I guess that's up for you to decide. For Optimus Prime's case, despite the eons they've been fighting each other, he was still glad that Megatron was fighting beside him, taking on Unicron. I really do think that the Armada incarnations of Optimus Prime and Megatron are really interesting and fascinating ones. Yes, this was the show I grew up with, but it did teach me an awful lot as well. I think it provokes at us the fans a little bit by how this fighting of Optimus Prime and Megatron is going to go on endlessly with new Transformers incarnations around the corner. Is there ever going to be a change to this franchise, like a major change? It really does seem like the Transformers brand will go on forever and we'll always see an Optimus Prime going up against a Megatron. Anyway guys, this has been my Transformers Armada video. I plan on doing more in the future of other ideas I have, so let me know if you really liked this video. And if you did, be sure to subscribe, click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. Until the next video, it's been Common and Cam, and goodbye.